This week on the Ocean Cruises podcast, we are speaking with Brian Trautman of SV Delos. Brian, along with his wife Karin and his daughter Sierra, sail around the world on a 53-foot Amel Super Maramu. Along with his brother Brady and a wild crew of world travelers, they set off from Mexico in 2009 and never looked back. They started producing sailing videos for YouTube in 2010 and have since gained nearly 800,000 subscribers. Delos has now sailed 4 oceans and over 80,000 nautical miles, visited 6 continents, over 47 countries, and is about to cross the Panama Canal into the Pacific Ocean. If you want to learn more about Brian, you can visit his YouTube channel, SV Delos. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, watch the interviews on YouTube, and download the audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Hi guys, so quick one before we get into the podcast this week. We've had a bunch of people reach out over the last few months and they've wanted to be able to support the podcast and see if they can contribute to it. So we've set up a Patreon, which we've now started uploading the videos and the audio to a little bit sooner than they come out. We've got a newsletter which is going out as well, where we talk about the guests that we've got coming up, and if you want to be a part of the podcast by getting some questions in. So if you want to support, www.patreon.com/Ocean Cruises. You'll find us on there, and your support is greatly appreciated. Cheers, guys. Yeah, fair enough. Well, cool. Yeah. So, I think probably a good place to start is just how did the season go last season? And I mean, I don't know whereabouts you're up to with your videos. I think you just started doing a little bit of refit work on a jetty.
So last season was great. I mean, it's kind of been an interesting season with COVID. Of course, we started out really in Antigua when we came back on board a little over 2 years ago. And then we kind of meandered through the Caribbean and up the East Coast of the US. And then we went all the way up to Maine, and we were going to go up into Canada and explore Nova Scotia, but the Canadian border was still locked down. So we turned around at the border, and then we sailed all the way back down to Florida and then Mexico and then Panama. So that's where we are right now. We're in the San Blas Islands of Panama, which is a lovely spot. There's nothing here. We're about 20 miles off the Panamanian mainland. It's just islands and palm trees and a few of the Kunas in their Cayuco canoes and us and a few other boats, and that's it. But it's lovely here.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's one place I'm really looking forward to sailing down to. I'm trying to convince as many people who are in the Caribbean to go there for the winter season. For the summer season. Oh yeah. But, everyone's like, oh, it's too far. That's too tough of a sail. How long does it take to get there from where you were?
It's about 1,000 miles from Mexico. 1,000 miles from Isla Mujeres. It's about 2,000 miles if you sail from Trinidad and Tobago or Grenada. I think it's 1,000 miles from the ABC, something like that. Yeah, it makes sense if you're going to go through the canal.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I mean, it's probably one of the only reasons why a lot of people go down there. But I just go down there and spend the hurricane season there. I just think it's gorgeous. So.
Yeah, I mean that's great. The only problem is that from the rainy season starts in May, June. And goes pretty hardcore, and in this area in particular, the lightning gets intense. So it's really known for lightning strikes, and so that's why the dry season is so lovely down here. It's because it's clear and the temperature is always right around 30 degrees. There's always 15 to 20 knots of wind, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, just perfect conditions. So you did quite a lot of miles last year. Then you pretty much did the entire coast of North America, and now you've come all the way down to Panama.
I think I can't remember exactly, 5,000 or 6,000 miles, maybe. Yeah, it was quite a bit. All miles seem longer with a baby on board, so.
I could imagine. Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah. I just did an Atlantic crossing with a 6-month-old on board, and makes it more. Well, actually, if you're crossing the Atlantic, you get pretty bored. So having a baby on board is quite interesting. It keeps you stimulated. So yeah, probably not bad in that case. But coastal cruising.
Yeah, Sierra was. It actually, I found it actually got way more difficult when Sierra could walk. Because when she was up to about a year, you could just put her down and then she'd kind of stay put, play with some toys. But now, she's fully mobile. She wants to get up, walk around, and if the sea state is not settled, then she can get thrown around, and then you really have to like follow her around all over the place.
Yeah. It's like when they're a baby, you could just stick them somewhere and they'll stay there. Like just put them on a big pillow and they're not going to move. But yeah, when like my son, he just loves buttons, any type of button. So, and he figured out what the, like you've got the switch where you go between the different batteries. He started playing with that one when the engine was on last year. So like, oh no, this is so dangerous now. Need to keep him away from it.
Yeah, Sierra goes after the autopilot. She always like pushes like minus 10, plus 10, just like boop, 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 boop. Yeah.
Good for that. What's the plan then? How come you ended up going so far down south? Are you planning on going through the canal?
Yeah, we are. We're going through actually in a couple of weeks. So end of March, we should be going through, and it's just time. We've been in the Atlantic now for almost 6 years since we left South Africa, and get to go. I'm like 2,000 miles from finishing the circumnavigation, which I never really cared about until I got really close, and I'm like, oh well, all I have to do is go through the canal and get into the Pacific, and then we're done. And then we can just keep on going or whatever, But that's it. The plan is right now to, we were going to do the South Pacific, but French Polynesia is open, but so much of it is still closed, and there's just so many places between, French Polynesia and Fiji that that I want to go back to again, and just to do it and have to skip all that stuff doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll go through the canal, and there's a lot to explore. You've got Costa Rica, you've got El Salvador, you've got some parts of like Honduras over there, and then you've got the whole Pacific coast of Mexico, and then you get up into the Sea of Cortez by hurricane season, and then you can cruise up there, and it's cool because now I'm getting back to places that I sailed like over 10 years ago in the same boat, and it's going to be interesting to see like how much it's changed and like how much I've changed. And I'm just stoked about it. And I love Mexican food, so that's always the bonus.
Yeah, it's actually the country I'm looking forward to most, I'd say, just for the food. Like whenever we discuss, where are we looking forward to? Like we're based in the Med, and we're like, oh, Greece has got amazing food. Turkey has. It's like, if I could just eat like street Mexican food every single day, I would be so happy for the rest of my life. But maybe that's the plan. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome that you're going to be going back and doing that route, because that's like when most people started watching you guys on YouTube, that's the type of locations you were at, or you were doing videos at for a while, I think.
Yeah, like our first video I think that we ever put out, which wasn't really a video, it was more of like I think like just a few pictures with some music to it or something. That was leaving Puerto Vallarta and the Bay of Banderas, and then setting out across the South Pacific. And so now it's like back there again.
Big change. Yeah, but so different, because there was basically you with your brother and like buddies and, like random nomads you picked up along the route. And, now you go back with your wife and your kids.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to have another friend join us. Our friend Jordan should be joining us. She sailed with us in the Caribbean, her and her boyfriend at the time, Nate. And then she's in Sri Lanka right now. And she's one of the people that we've just kept in touch with over the years, and she's helped us edit the videos and stuff. And so she's going to come on board just to have, so we can have like a third hand going up the coast. And she's amazing with filming, and she's a scuba diver and she's a surfer. And so we get along quite well. Yeah. It'll be pretty cool.
So so you're crossing through the Panama Canal. Are you planning on basically staying on that side of the coast and just waiting out till a few more COVID restrictions, and then you might think about crossing over to like French Polynesia or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, generally the best time to go is in March. And the reason why people like to go in March is because you basically have until the South Pacific cyclone season, which starts kicking up in November, December, the Southern Hemisphere summer. And so then that gives you the longest amount of time to get from French Polynesia to wherever you're going to be, whether it be like New Zealand or Australia or, up closer to the equator, or some people stay in, some people stay all over the place, but that's the main driving force. And so you really want that, because it's like 11,000 miles of sailing from, the west coast of Mexico through to New Zealand, something like that. So it's quite a stretch, and there's a lot to see. And so you don't really want to rush it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like a good chunk of planet Earth, like half of it. So
yeah, exactly. The Pacific is 2/3 of the planet, really. And so, if you leave, so we could easily spend, a summer, and then the next season, if things are looking good, then we, the boat's ready to go. We're ready to go. We're just kind of waiting for everything to open up still. 2 years later.
I know, 2 years later, it's like they were talking about some other type of variant as well on the news yesterday. I don't pay attention anymore. I'm just like, we've got it for life.
No, I haven't looked at it. There's another variant. I don't even know. Yeah,
that's what they were saying yesterday. But yeah, as soon as they started talking about it, I was like, I'll just turn it off. I'm not interested now. But we'll
tune that out. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll catch it, or we'll get a booster, or who knows, whatever. Okay, so
over it.
With regards to you've had so many different crew on board and like people from all over the world. Okay, so if it does come to crossing the Pacific, that could be, I don't know, somebody could be on the boat for like a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time, depending on like where you're sailing from and where you're going to. What do you look for in a person when it comes to making a decision on that? Because that's like spending a few months with your family. That's quite intense.
Yeah, well, it's changed over the years. Before we just used to grab, random people, anybody that could pay their own way, and help pay the shares of the boat. Now it's really driven by Sierra, and so it's harder, unfortunately, for us just to invite random people or people that we haven't met before. And so now we kind of stick to people like that we know and we've become friends with, and that we know that they're solid sailors, because it's a full-time job, sailing the boat, and it's a full-time job watching Sierra. She's 2.5 now, and so then I really, we're looking for somebody that can, is cool, like can handle their stuff, not break down in stressful situations, like have some sailing knowledge, like capable of doing night watches, because just that sort of thing, and also like people that I think it's interesting. After sailing with so many people, I really like meeting and having new people, but I also just as much like having people back that have sailed with us before. In previous seasons, just because you have like that shared history and that camaraderie, and you kind of know them, and it just sort of fits in a groove. So, if we could find like one or two other people, that would be perfect.
Yeah. How many people can you actually get on that boat comfortably?
We've had 7. Yeah, comfortably 6.
Okay.
You can get two in the back, 2 in the front, 1 in the pass through, and 1 in the bunk in the salon.
Right. Okay.
And then that's pretty. I mean, yeah. 6 is
Pretty
doable.
full.
7's a stretch. Yeah. 5 is not an issue at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for like those long passages, like I know because your wife takes care of Sierra quite a bit when you're doing like when you're doing the long passages and stuff. So yeah, I think like a few other people at least. So you're just not sat and watch for like 6 hours at a time.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that's good about long passages is you actually can have more people than you would, I think, at anchor or just normal cruising, because on passage you're like either outside, you're on watch, or you're resting, or you're sailing the boat or something. And so there's just a lot, people are doing those things, and people are sleeping in shifts and stuff, and so it just seems like things are a little bit more streamlined, or they everything just sort of functions like on a predictable schedule when you're at sea. And so then it's easy to be like, okay, your watch is this to this, you're sleeping from this to this, and then you can have room out in the cockpit or in the salon or wherever, and everybody's not crawling all over each other like
Well, everyone's chilled out as well.
Sense.
I mean, no one's making plans or trying to go anywhere. Like everyone knows exactly what they're doing. So yeah, it's way more chilled than if you were on anchor in a
It's
day, it's really
exactly it.
crowded or something.
You're like a one car family,
Yeah.
with the dinghy, if you don't count like paddle boards and stuff. So if somebody wants to take the dinghy in, then everybody else is kind of stranded, and so you're always trying to coordinate like herding cats to get everybody ready. Okay, we're going in, like everybody get in the dinghy.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't have to worry about that
type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So how's I mean, I know you just did like a bunch of like refit work or some upgrades, that type of stuff. How is the boat holding up in general? Because you've had the boat for quite a while, and I think it's about 20 years old now, something like that.
She is. She's a 2000, so she's 22 years old. I've owned her since 2008,
Right.
which has been quite a while. And I saw a huge spike in maintenance around the 15-year mark when she turned 15 years old. And then, because then it was like the electronics are super outdated. The generator needed replacing, those sort of big things. We had to redo the rig, all the standing rigging. And now it's just normal things, like, because all the major things have been replaced. All the major systems have been replaced with the exception of, the Volvo, the main diesel. Which has like 8,500 hours on her at this point, but still like doesn't burn any oil, just runs like a little champ. So I mean, everything's actually pretty good. I probably shouldn't say that because as soon as I say that, something happens.
Tomorrow.
But at this point, like all the toilets are working, the water maker is working, the generator's working, all the nav is working. So and all the sales are good. So we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of miles to go on one engine. Like a lot of people would have thrown that out and got a new one by now. But I've got a Volvo in my boat. They're so good and reliable. And I spoke to many people who've like gone 12, 13,000 hours, like plus.
Yeah.
They last.
Well, what I found is as long as you put clean fuel in it, clean air, and change the oil regularly, they'll do pretty well. It's the inside of the engine. It's all the stuff on the outside that starts to fail. I've replaced obviously the timing belts, the fuel injection pump, like the alternators, like all the water pumps, the heat exchanger, like everything bolted to the outside. I've replaced over the last couple of years, but the internal part of the engine is still original.
Yeah, like the block of the engine.
Yeah.
I
even had to put new motor mounts. The motor mounts wore out last year, so it's like, okay, got to put in new transmission mounts, new motor mounts. It's like never ending.
That was the first time you did it.
Yeah.
Wow. So it lasted a long time. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did pretty well.
Yeah, but if it's it's a balanced engine, it's not like wobbling about a lot, then I suppose it would be all right. Just going on like to the maintenance side, do you have like an annual budget for maintenance that you've worked out over the years? Like how much the boat roughly costs you, not including like your cruising kitty or anything like that, but just keeping the boat floating?
Oh man, what's the number? I had it down to a pretty accurate percentage of hull value. And I thought, and I think like, oh man, I'll have to get the number back, but it was like, I figured, what was it, 3 to 4% of hull value per year, assuming that you do all the work yourself, is what I think our average is, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it varied. Some years it was 10%, some years it was 2%, but I think the average was in like that, maybe 3 to 5%. I'm just guessing, but I mean it should be right around there.
So it would be somewhere like 6 to 10 grand, something in that type of range, which is
I mean, there's years where we've spent 30 grand, there's years where we've spent 10 grand, but I mean, I think the whole value on Delos right now is right around $300,000 US or 280,000 euros or whatever it comes out to. That's what the insured value is. So it's kind of basing. So if we're at 5%, then, what is 5% of 300 grand? It's about 15 grand a year or something like that. Maybe triple it if you don't do your own work. So.
Yeah, and it's like labor. I said, as soon as the standing rigging needs changing or like you need some new sails, then boom, big money.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a quote to replace the standing rigging in Thailand. The guy said it would be 20,000 euros and take him about 6 weeks to do it. We did it for ourselves for 8,000 euros, and we did it in like 10 days. So you gotta kind of take what people say with a grain of salt, really. Yeah.
Yeah, half price and like a quarter of the time. Yeah, that's a ridiculous quote, actually. 20 grand. That's just stupid.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's a couple of websites now. There's one in the UK called like Jim. I think it's Jimmy Green, where I'm not advertising for them or anything. It's just a really good website. But yeah, you can just go in there. You can put like the name of your boat, and they will just send you an entire standing rigging set, like just from scratch. Just pay online.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Well, we were lucky because we met up with an Australian guy who had a rigging shop in Thailand. And I wanted to learn about it, and he was keen to teach us. And so we basically just bought the wire from him. We bought the swages from him. He let us use his shop. He showed us how to press the swages together. There was a few specific parts I had to order from France, but you can in fact go to Acmo, who builds all the rigs for Amel, and you can just order a rig for your whole number. They still have all the measurements from the factory, and then they'll send it to you, and it's like 8,000 euros or something like that for everything. So
yeah, that's so good. And that's like not an intimidating number for like a mid 50-foot boat as well. That seems pretty reasonable.
No, and we're a catch, so we've got more stays, and on a sloop they'll be slightly longer, but the cost is not in the cable. It's in the fittings and the swages and the turnbuckle. That's where the money is, right? The cable's actually quite cheap. The strand.
Yeah. Have you, just because you mentioned ketch then, I'm just wondering what your opinions are on the new Amels, similar size to Delos, because they've completely abandoned the ketch now. And well, they've abandoned a few things.
I don't know. The only thing I can tell you is I can't afford like a €2 million boat. So
not many people can.
So here we are. No, I mean they look to be very nice. I've never sailed on one. But take that for what it's worth.
That's like the price of the base model, 2 million.
I think I saw a price for like a 60-footer, the Amel 60. I think I saw listed for like 2 million. I know the 50 is probably 1 point something. No, I mean, it's either way, like that's some serious money.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot. I mean, you're getting into serious territory for that, which is crazy. I mean, if you can get like a boat that's like 10 to 15 years old for like a few $100,000, like it just seems insane to like spend that much cash on a boat. Because I can't imagine there's that many people who would put like thousands of miles under it crossing oceans. Neither. It's when you get into that money, it's more people who are just going to like keep them in marinas and use them as showpieces. I'd have thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have a lot more money than a lot of people realize, and there's a lot of disposable income out there, and they're keen to buy something. Maybe they've worked hard for it. Who knows? They're going to treat themselves, and that's it.
Yeah, or lottery winners, maybe. Yeah, I think
if I
won the lottery, I'd probably go down that road. How is your navigation system going? Because you went like completely BG for like the whole system, I think. How's that working out?
Yeah, I'm super happy with it. It's nice. Awesome kit. It's just the small things like when you go into night mode. On the old system I had to individually set like the display, each one to night mode. It took me like, 3 or 4 minutes going around holding this button, selecting this. Now the B&G, I just go over to the chart plotter. I'd be like night mode, and all of them in the entire book go and just kind of change. The radar is really incredible. We can see like small buoys, small rocks. I saw like a Cayuco the other day, which is like a small wooden canoe, which really surprised me. So I'm a big fan of that Halo radar. And we've had it for about a year and a half now. Okay. Put some miles on it, and it does everything you would expect a chart plotter and kind of integrated newer instrument system to do. Touchscreen is nice. The display refreshes quickly, and the alarms are cool. So, you know, like one of the things that our other system didn't do at all was radar guard zones and like AIS guard zones. So now I can say like, hey, you know, if a boat comes this close or, you know, within this vector that I can set on the chart plotter, you know, make a noise, wake me up, or bring attention. It also has a MARPA. So it's a Doppler radar. And so it'll actually tell you how fast things are going, if it's headed towards you or away from you, and if it's a threat and stuff like that, which is, it's just nice. You know, when it's 2 a.m, you're wondering what's going on, having a little bit more information never hurts.
Yeah. It's so cool that you can connect them to like your iPad or your phone, and you've basically got like a mirrored chart plotter on your iPad now, because you can just like take it out and you've got everything in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they all do that, but ours actually serves as because we have the Zeus, not the 3S, I think it is, and it's actually a Wi-Fi broadcaster. So, you know, it is its own Wi-Fi hotspot, and then you can hook up a tablet or a phone or whatever and just get all the instrument data there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, with B&G, they've got some type of feature on there, like sail something, where it like they tell you the most suitable points to tack, like to get to your waypoints or something.
Oh yeah.
Do you use that?
Yeah. I was actually using that the other day. It's pretty cool. Especially if you're just trying to sail for VMG, right? If you're just looking to make like, you know, velocity towards your waypoint, and maybe bearing off a little bit gets you lesser angle, but it gets you more boat speed. You'll be able to figure out really quick if that makes sense to do or not.
And it's actually like pretty reliable, and it works quite well.
I've used it maybe like half a dozen times. So and we're normally not racing, we're normally dodging, you know, reefs and islands out here. But yeah, from where I saw it, it actually predicted our tack lines pretty good. Yeah.
Wow, nice. Yeah, that's really good, because that's like one part. I mean, it's not, I suppose the more experience you've got, the easier it is. But yeah, if you're looking at the entrance to a bay or through a reef and you're on a certain wind angle, it's like, okay, at what point do we tack? So like having a program or an application in it will tell you, okay, tack now. And then you can just go for it. It saves a lot of thought and hassle.
Yeah. Or like, okay, now I know I've made my tack, like I can put a little bit in the bank, and then my next tack, I can bear off the wind a little bit more and have a little easier sail, something like that. Yeah.
It looks like a really good feature. Yeah, I think that just that part of it alone actually sold me on B&G. So it's the chart plotter systems, they're designed for sailing, whereas I think some of the other ones are possibly designed for like motorboating or fishing, I think. So yeah, it looked like the best one by far.
Yeah, it is definitely more sailing orientated for sure.
Yeah. So you said you've got, I mean, you just did your little refit now, and you're basically ready to like start crossing the Pacific, I think, more or less from what you've got done. Is there anything else that you'd want to add on to Delos? Any different types of equipment or any extras that are not on there now?
I have a forward-looking sonar, which I think would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And that'll plug right into the chart plotter, but I've got to put a new through hole in the boat for the transducer, so I need to hull out to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that would be pretty cool, because we're always, you know, exploring and you know, it's okay to put the dinghy in front and do depth soundings and stuff, but you know, I think this one says it can give you like a 9-to-1 ratio. So if the water's, you know, 10 feet deep, you can see 90 feet in front of you or something like that. And so you know, that's really good, if that makes sense. Yeah, because I mean, we're always like going slow at 1 knot, and sometimes we'll kind of like bump into something, and then we'll like back off. I'm like, okay, that's not it. Like, let's go the other way. Just kind of like feeling our way in. It might be handy for that. I've never really used one, but it sounds cool. I'd like to install that. Other than that, I mean, you know, we got lithium batteries. That's another game changer for us. A lot of solar panels. The flex panels from our friends at Sun Powered Yachts are pretty sweet. Had those on a couple of years, and they're just cranking in the power. Got rid of propane, went with induction cooking and electric convection oven, which never go back to propane ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's just clicking along, you know. I wish we had more hatches. Like the ventilation on Delos has never been great. And so when it's hot, it's hot. It's hot inside.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a few more hatches in the salon or better ventilation or something. That's pretty picky.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with like a lot of the European boats that like weren't made for the charter market, because now they've just got hatches all over the place. It's like trying to find deck space is a bit annoying on some of them. But yeah, like a lot of them are like blue water cruisers. I think they're probably made more for like northern latitudes rather than, you know, sailing around the equator.
Well, I mean, I think the thought process was the less holes in the boat, the less chance for problems, right? The less chance for leaks, the less chance for something. And so, you know, we have like one hatch in the salon and that's it. And
Wow, yeah,
it's just not quite enough.
Yeah. So, well, you could add them up, but you've got air conditioning on there, haven't you?
We do, but we run it when we're in the marina.
Yeah.
There was a couple times in Mexico when it was ridiculously hot, and when we were in Bocas del Toro in Panama when there was like zero wind and it was, you know, like 40 degrees, and then Sierra couldn't sleep. I'm like, okay, let's just pop on the AC. We'll cool the boat down. It only takes 45 minutes. We'll close everything up. We'll go to sleep, and then I turn it off, and then you have about 4 or 5 hours of comfort until it's stifling hot again. But yeah, in the marina, it's a game changer, right? I love my air conditioning.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, being there and then just those nights when you're on anchor and like you just got no wind blowing through your anchorage at all, and you sleep. I've got an aft cabin as well, so you just get no wind moving through the aft cabin at all, and yeah, it gets pretty unpleasant. Yeah. So have you put any thought into, I mean, Delos is in like really good condition and you've done, you know, loads of stuff to it recently, but have you put any thought into like what type of other boats you might like?
Yeah. I mean, I've always had my eye on kind of like an aluminum expeditionary sort of boat.
Yeah.
There's some cool ones that are even catamarans now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much sense it makes or if it's going to turn out to be proven to be good, but I mean, a little bit modern hull design would be nice. You know, the beam carried a little bit further aft, you know, gives you more space inside and deck space outside. I've always wanted to have like a cutter rig boat, because there's been a lot of times we need to work upwind and heavy breeze, and having a staysail, I think would really help in that regard. Yeah. Other than that, like
any particular brands or models?
Pretty good size. Not really. They're all so expensive, you know. Like, you know, the Garcia Explorer-Cat is like 1 point something million.
Oh yeah,
euros.
they're crazy.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. I think I have no idea. I'll probably end up getting like a fixer-upper or something, and like, because I like working on boats anyway. So
yeah,
we'll see. Who knows?
What drew you to Delos in the first place? Because I mean, like, you obviously had a decent budget when you went boat shopping, like the first time around. What made you pick that as opposed to any other?
Well, I went to I knew very little about sailing and blue water sailing, really, and so the boat had a good reputation for being like a solid sailing boat, a boat that was easy to sail and could really take care of you, and so that appealed to me. Stock comes with a lot of systems, so it had all the creature comforts, like, you know, the water maker and, you know, the autopilot and a well-protected cockpit, center cockpit. I liked that concept. And for what you got, you know, it was a pretty good bargain. It was a pretty good value for the money at that time, I felt. And I was also moving out of a house and living on a boat for the first time, so I thought I needed the biggest possible boat that I could get, you know, a 50+ foot boat, and anything less than that would be way too small, which I know now it's like, well, you know, it's most people are in 40 something foot boats, and that's, you know, that's just fine for them. 50-foot boat means you're one of the bigger boats in every anchorage you go to. I guess it would also be cool to have a shallower draft. I felt like Like if you look at some of the aluminum expedition boats, then they have a variable draft keel or a swinging keel, and some of them can have a draft of like 1 meter, which sounds really appealing, and still a really good sailing boat. So that's it. But yeah, that's kind of what appealed to me about Delos. And she was just there and just said, "Hey, come on, let's go sailing." I said, "All right."
Buy it.
I basically sold a house and bought and traded it for a sailboat is what happened.
Yeah. And well, yeah, I mean, houses generally go up with value, but I was going to say either way, I think the Amel Super Maramu, the particular model you've got, they've like held the money so well. I mean, I don't think you could have put your cash into anything else that it moves, at least, that would have held its value quite as well as that boat.
No, probably not. They've done really well, and they have a good reputation, and they sort of have a cult following too. Like some people look at them and think like, "Oh, that's a weird design boat." I'm like, "Yeah, it's weird, but it works."
Yeah. Yeah.
And sailing a catch is cool. I like sailing a catch. It gives you a lot of sail options. So it's a great. I mean, you can really.
Yeah, kind of just like quite comfortable as well. I mean, there's obviously like a lot of advantages to them. Did you factor that in when it came to actually buying the boat? Like, were you particularly looking for a catch, or was it something that just took you by surprise and you liked the boat?
No, not at all. I was just, 2 masts must be better than 1. Cool,
Well, it is in a way, yeah. But yeah, like they've, yeah.
Well, like in some ways, it's a shorter mast, right? Because you have 2 masts instead of 1, so the main mast is shorter than mast, which means you have less stress on the rigging that's there because everything is now dispersed across 2 masts instead of 1. And it gives you a great place to hang your laundry at anchor. The mizzen is amazing for that, and it just looks cool too, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so when I mean, I suppose like your life has changed like pretty considerably since you had Sierra from, you've just become a father, but just, I suppose, focusing on the sailing part, what was there any particular changes that you thought you needed to make to the boat or like the cruising lifestyle that you wanted to have, like 6-7 years ago, as opposed to now? Like, what has that plan changed like?
Like the plan as far as where we sail or how we sail? Is that what you mean? Or
both,
I think
really.
we're definitely more conservative now, just because we've also learned more, and we've seen so many people make mistakes and like lose their boat in so many different ways. And so, like you look back at like all the wrecks you've seen, and you're like, well, okay, I know why he did that, and I see what happened there, and I've done that in the past, and I've gotten away with it, but it's actually just not worth it. And so I think in general we're more conservative. Like, before, if we were in a shitty anchorage, then we could deal with it because we knew like, okay, it sucks here, it's rolly, it's we'll just go to bed, we'll wake up tomorrow and we'll get on. But now that we have Sierra on board, like if she's not happy, then like we're definitely not happy. And it just kind of ruins everything. And so we'll tend to go less places, I think, and we'll probably spend longer in each place, which means, okay, so we see less places, but then we get to know each place a little bit better, which is cool. We're like, for example, when we were going around the coast of Nicaragua on the way from Mexico to Panama, it's like known for piracy in that area, and they recommended you stay at least 100 miles offshore. Well, we said, well, I mean, we'll just go 200 miles offshore. Like, who cares? It's not, it's not that big of a deal. It's just more miles. And so bunch of small things like that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think like for us as well, it was like comfort just became the number one, as opposed to getting somewhere quicker or getting somewhere today or tomorrow. It was like, okay, what is the most comfortable way we can get from A to B, and what do we need for the boat to be the most comfortable? And that was like kind of
I reef even earlier than I did before, trying to keep the boat flat, stuff like that.
Yeah. All right, just moving on to like the YouTube side of stuff, because you guys, like you and your brother and the friends you had at the time when you first started sailing, you kind of like pioneered this YouTube sailing world in a way. Or you the first people to start inspiring, everybody else to start doing it at least. What made you do that? Like, what made you go from like sailing around the world to then, okay, let's start sailing around the world and like broadcasting it to the entire world? Like, it's quite a strange thing to do because it had never been done before.
It really wasn't. It wasn't planned. I mean, I think we weren't aware of anybody else doing it at the time. We had a blog, and one of our friends that was also another sailor that we met in Australia, we'd been out cruising for about 2.5 years at this point. He said, hey, it would be cool if you guys did like a video blog of what you were doing. And I was like, well, that's an interesting idea, because then my mom and my dad and my family can actually see, what the life is really about in pictures rather than just words. And we just sort of started playing around with it, bought a cheapo, like $200 camcorder, Googled, how to edit a video, how to publish something to YouTube. And we didn't have any intentions of making a living or a lifestyle from it. And then, without it, we would have had to stop sailing many, many years ago, because we were stopping to work before, and we'd stop and we'd get jobs somewhere, or we'd fly home, and then we'd pool our cash together, fly back to the boat, and then after we were making the videos for when was it, about 3 years maybe, it kind of started to really become self-sufficient, and then Patreon joined the scene, and then that was really what made the difference for us was Patreon and crowdfunding.
I suppose it was like when you were 3 years in, so it's probably like 6 years ago, you were able to then treat it as a full-time job in a way, and that could actually like pay for your cruising and your living.
Kind of. I mean, the first couple of years, I finally cashed in the last of my savings. I had like this retirement fund from when I, had a job before I left, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just cash that in, and we're just gonna go for it. And luckily, the year after I did that, then we finally started to break even to where we would make enough money to be able to cover the expenses of the boat and the food, and then it was good from there.
So I mean, when you actually started doing that and you started sailing around, YouTube wasn't even a massive thing back then. It was like a lot of people just didn't pay any attention to it, or there was no like news on there, or there wasn't really any like TV shows going directly onto YouTube as there is now. Like, I think they actually produce their own movies now, I'm sure, or they do their own like documentaries at least. Have you never considered turning what you're doing into just like a full-on TV show? Because it more or less is, and it's way more interesting than most TV shows.
We've been approached by, I don't know, at least a dozen of them, and I think the trajectory is the other way. So people who are in traditional media are looking to get on social media, and people think that, okay, it's cool if you can take your social media and turn it into like a normal traditional kind of like media, like something that's produced and then released on something like TV, that means you've made it. But then when you look at where the dollars and where the advertisement is going and where the support is and where the excitement is, it's all moving the other direction. And so every time we talk to somebody, they're like, well, okay, so I understand that you're sailing around the world, but we really want to do a show focused on food and travel. So maybe we could film you, and then you'd sail from this country to this, and then you'd go in and taste the food, and then you do some tours, and then you sail on to the next place. And I'm like, well, that isn't what I want to do at all. Like, that doesn't sound like crap, like, well, you could add, we could have drama about this and that. I'm like, I don't want to add drama. Like, there's enough, it's just, I just want to sail around and do my own thing. And that's, so it never ended up going anywhere. I don't think that they could pay me enough to make it worthwhile to like stop doing something I love to let somebody like, it's cool because we've always been able to control like our kind of message on how we want to portray this life. And try and keep it a generally positive note, show the good things of the world. Of course, there is some crappy things that happen, but we don't like focus on that. We don't dramatize on that. We sort of get over it and go move on to the next fun thing. And it's pretty special to be able to kind of control your own destiny that way and still be able to fund it and support it,
Yeah, I think that's why like so many people watch your channel, and I've done for years as well, because it's like it's completely raw and authentic. How much of it's such a strange job in a way, because it's like your life is actually your job and your day-to-day life is your job, which is so different from like nearly everybody else on the planet who doesn't do this type of thing.
Yeah.
But like how much of your daily routine do you actually think about, okay, we're going to go here, we need to film this? Or do you go about whatever you're doing on a daily basis and pick up a camera when you think something might be interesting? Like, because I mean, it's like you're producing a reality documentary in a way constantly. Like, how much of that do you factor in when you're just going about your daily business?
I think it's changed over the years. I mean, we used to literally film like what we did every day, all the time. And then what you end up with is like an editing nightmare, because then you're spending like days and days and days sifting through your footage, trying to find the best shot. And then over the years, we've sort of gotten better at it to where we know like, oh, I think we're going to go in and do this anyway. And this would be really exciting. So let's go ahead and film that. But we're only going to film it once, and we're going to film it really, really well. And then the rest of the time is ours. And so I think over the years, we've actually learned how to film less and still hopefully portray like a good message, or a good kind of accurate portrayal of what it's about. Like there's a lovely island and a really nice beach here that every day we go in, we go swimming, we go snorkeling, we go slacklining, we play on the beach with Sierra, and that's what we do, during from like 11 to 2 every day. We don't need to show that every day, because it's like, we're not doing like daily vlogs here. It's about our experience, and we release like weekly videos, and so we try and put the coolest things in there that we can. I don't know if that answered the question. I think we've gotten a little bit more concise with it over the years, maybe. It's
I mean,
hard
it's
to have
as well.
But I guess on the other side of it, like, honestly, after you've been doing something for 10 years, like some things are just not as exciting as they used to. And so I think we've lost some of that perspective where like everything is new and everything is amazing. It's like, the wonder of a child. And then you grow up and you're like, oh, well, that was cool, but I'm not so amazed by it anymore. So it was a lot easy to be like, I guess, so enthralled by the lifestyle when we first started doing this, because everything was new and fresh, right? And so now we're always like, hey, what's a different perspective? How can we keep this interesting to us? How can we keep it interesting for the people watching the videos? And I guess try and keep that in mind a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, like the other way of looking at it is very few people stay in like one job for 10 years. Or at least with the same company. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're working for yourself, doing the same thing. Yeah. So keeping it interesting, like, it must just play a major part in it. I've asked a couple of other people this, and I get like mixed responses in terms of like, do they actually watch YouTube or not? But is there any like YouTube channels you watch for inspiration? Not particularly sailing, but anything related to like travel or any other hobbies, anything like that?
Oh, I mostly watch Netflix, honestly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, I love learning about the world of cryptocurrency, and so I tend to watch a few videos just to learn about that space, what's going on there. I absolutely stay away from like news and things like that.
Yeah.
Anything like science documentary related, I'm usually into. If I am watching something that's not Netflix. And then our friends, like, if our friends make a YouTube video and we happen to know them and I see it pop up, whether it's a sailing channel or like, we have friends that are, filmers in South Africa, our friend Kirill, our friend Bryn, if they're involved in a project, then I love to watch that. Or, our friend Jordan, when she was on Drenched, I love to watch that, and just whatever.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, the cryptocurrency thing is completely beyond me. I just don't even understand what it's about. I have no idea. I get the stock market, but cryptocurrency, I'm like, this stuff isn't even real. Like, what is it? Like,
it's growing quick, and it's interesting.
Yeah, people are making a lot of money in it, so maybe I should like read a book or something. I don't know, but yeah, I completely don't understand that.
I think when it matures and it gets regulated and stuff, I think it'll be pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, man, the amount of people that have told me like over the past 6 years, like, oh, buy Bitcoin. I'm like, that's not real. It's like, maybe I really should have taken that advice. I'd probably be quite a rich man by now if I would have done it like six or 7 years ago, whenever it was. Well, listen, Brian, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and for giving the listeners a few more insights into your life. And
my pleasure. I'm glad the time worked out for us. I'm glad the satellite booted up and locked on. And, now the weather's good here. We got solid 15 knots of wind. The sun is shining now, and I'm gonna go try and get a little bit of kiteboard session in before the sun sets. So that's my plans. But
sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Nice to chat with you.
Pal.
Have a good one. Ciao.